Anxiety was never the problem. You are the descendant of the most anxious people who ever lived. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest. The most anxious. Because for almost all of human history, the people who worried survived, and the people who didn't disappeared. Today, anxiety feels like a flaw, something to get rid of, something to fix. But if anxiety is so terrible, why didn't evolution remove it? Evolution is ruthless. It doesn't care whether you're happy, it only cares whether you survive long enough to have children. So, why would one of the most uncomfortable emotions human can experience survive for hundreds of thousands of years? The answer is strange because anxiety wasn't a bug. It was one of the greatest survival tools ever created. Imagine you're standing in a forest 50,000 years ago. You hear something moving in the bushes. There are two possibilities: it's the wind or it's a predator. One person assumes it's the wind and keeps walking. The other becomes anxious. Their heart rate increases, their muscles tense. They scan the environment. Maybe they even run. Now imagine the sound was nothing. The anxious person wasted some energy. That's it. But if it was a lion, the relaxed person dies. The anxious person survives. And that's the entire story of evolution. For millions of years, being overly cautious was often better than being wrong. In fact, evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Ness compared anxiety to a smoke detector. Think about the smoke detector in your house. It goes off when there's a fire, but it also goes off when you burn a toast or make too much steam or cook something slightly wrong. It's annoying. But nobody complains that the smoke detectors create too many false alarms. Because missing one real fire is far more dangerous than triggering 10 false ones. Your brain works the same way. Evolution didn't build a perfect threat detector, it built a detector that would rather be wrong than dead. And suddenly, anxiety starts looking very different. Because your brain isn't trying to make you comfortable, it's trying to keep you alive. But that was only the beginning. The deeper scientists looked into anxiety, the stranger it became. Anthropologists studying hunter gatherer societies noticed something very interesting. Every group seemed to contain certain individuals who were more vigilant than everyone else. People who noticed small changes, people who were worried, people who anticipated danger, people who constantly asked, "What if?" At first glance, these people seem exhausting, but in a dangerous environment, they were often incredibly valuable. Because somebody had to notice the storm coming, somebody had to remember where predators were seen, somebody had to prepare for winter before winter arrived, somebody had to worry about food running out before it actually did. Entire groups may have survived because a handful of people were anxious enough to prepare for the problems that didn't exist yet. And this reveals something important. Anxiety is really a prediction machine. It is your brain attempting to stimulate the future. Constantly, relentlessly, what if that goes wrong? What if they reject you? What if food becomes scarce? What if something bad happens? Your brain is running thousands of tiny simulations every day. Most of them never happen. And that's exactly the point. Because even if one of them turns out to be true, preparation becomes valuable. In ancient environments, this system was incredibly effective. The future was uncertain, danger was real, predators existed, starvation existed, disease existed, war existed. Most humans lived one bad season away from disaster. Anxiety evolved to help navigate uncertainty. But then something changed. Human beings became too successful. For almost all of history, anxiety was responding to immediate threats: a predator, a rival tribe, a harsh winter. Now look at your life. You can be anxious about an email, a social media comment, a presentation next week, a bill next month, an election happening on the other side of the planet. a war in another hemisphere, a recession that hasn't happened yet. The anxiety system stayed the same, the environment changed, and suddenly the machine designed to help you survive lines found itself trying to survive notifications. Then something even stranger happened. Modern humans became exposed to more threat information than any humans in history. Your ancestors knew about local dangers. You know about every danger on earth. Within minutes, you can learn about a natural disaster in Asia, a war in Europe, a murder in America, an economic crisis somewhere else. Your brain processes much of this information the same way it processes local threats. It reacts, even when there is nothing useful you can do. And the people who design modern media understand this because human beings possess something called negativity bias. Psychologists have demonstrated repeatedly that bad news captures attention more effectively than good news. The brain prioritizes threats. It always has. If your ancestors ignored danger, they died. If they ignored good news, nothing happened. So your attention evolved to favor the negative. Today, that means headlines about disaster spread faster. Outrage spreads faster. Fear spreads faster. Anxiety spreads faster. And every notification pulls on a survival system that evolved long before electricity existed. But the strangest discovery came from genetics. Researchers studying twins found that anxiety related traits are partially heritable. In other words, some people naturally inherit more sensitivity to threats than others, which raises an uncomfortable question. If anxiety can be painful, why does evolution keep passing it down? The answer appears to be that anxious individuals provided advantages often enough that the trait never disappeared. Because evolution doesn't optimize for happiness, it optimizes for survival, and survival often rewards caution. Think about your ancestors. The person who worried about the winter stored extra food. The person who worried about enemies stayed alert. The person who worried about illness noticed symptoms early. The person who worried about danger prepared. Again and again, anxiety helped people survive uncertainty, and survival is the only score evolution cares about. But there's another layer to this story, one that makes anxiety feel surprisingly personal. For most of human history, social rejection wasn't embarrassing, it was deadly. Humans evolved in small tribes. Being excluded from your group could mean starvation. No protection, no shelter, no support, possibly death. Your brain remembers this, not consciously but deeply, which means the anxiety you feel before speaking in public, the anxiety you feel before sending a message, the anxiety you feel when people dislike you may be connected to survival systems that evolved when social rejection carried catastrophic consequences. Your brain still treats belonging as life and death. Because for most of human history, it was. And suddenly, modern anxiety starts making more sense. The meeting isn't dangerous, the email isn't dangerous, the social media post isn't dangerous. But your ancient brain doesn't always know that. It sees uncertainty. And uncertainty has always mattered.